Good afternoon. Good morning. I don't know where you're at. We've got listeners all over the world. We've got scattered throughout the United States and Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Virginia, and Texas, where my next guest has businesses. And so it's an honor to welcome Tom Kittredge. He's a second generation family business owner with over 27 years of startup and executive management experience. So he's got a lengthy resume. We're just going to kind of work through that. So, Tom, welcome aboard. Thanks.
Thanks, Lauren. Happy to be here. And I guess I should start with condolences. I saw where you had a dog that had passed. Can you hear me, Lauren?
Okay. Can you hear me now?
I gotcha. There you
I
are.
don't know what's going on, man. My security is keep on going back to the app and everything. And I don't know. I'm just really, this is crazy. Um, well, thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. And I think we're going to have these interruptions all the time because I've got codes that I've put in and it's flashing. And anyway,
Okay.
so, well, thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. And so, you just recently traveled not too long ago, right?
Yeah. So in Arizona today for a conference, but my wife and I just did a couple weeks in Portugal. That was really
Wow.
nice.
Wow. So let me ask you something. In the last week or so, what's the funniest thing you've ever seen?
The funniest thing in the past week.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, come
well,
on.
I
You,
have a
it's not, it's,
13, I have a
oh,
13-year-old son, so I mean, it's the teenage angst it runs deep. So I gotta say that there's there's a lot of comedy in having a 13-year-old and a lot and it harkens back to some pain, right? Just remembering when you were that age and
right?
just the stuff you go through, right? And everything seems to be so high drama, and then in hindsight you look back and you just sort of laugh. So
Yeah, yeah. So is he the hockey guy?
well, I got two hockey guys actually,
Okay.
so it's actually something that my family, but probably much to my wife's dismay, but me and my two boys, it's something that we do together quite frequently. So we're always on the ice together. And
Wow.
I've coached both of them since, I don't know, for the past 9 or 10 years. So it's something that we do and we've
That has
enjoyed
to be
for
a lot
many
of fun.
years.
How did you guys get introduced to hockey?
Well, growing up in Charleston, West Virginia, which is the bastion of ice hockey,
Uh huh.
right?
Yeah.
Not,
Right.
but when
Yeah.
I was 9 years old. Well, I'm dating myself now, but I was 9 years old when we beat the Soviet Union in on February 22nd, 1980. That's the day I got into ice hockey. So when the Team USA beat the Soviet Union in the 1980 Olympics, that did it. I was sort of hooked
Wow.
and started playing. Said, "Hey, mom, so I want to go play this sport." And she's and Charleston had a sort of
Yeah.
fledgling program at the time, and
Uh
I
huh.
think it's advanced a lot since then. But yeah,
Yeah.
so that's how I got into it.
Well, that's pretty cool. I've been to a couple of hockey games, but and I've been to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Is that the correct name? Thank you.
Yeah,
No?
yeah.
Okay. All right. Good. 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 It's been a while since I've been, but I enjoyed it, and it's just a different sport. I mean, my kids play, my grandkids, I should say, they play basketball, and my grandson, he's a junior, and he's already colleges are looking at him, and my
Awesome.
granddaughter is a volleyball. She's in kind of middle school, but she's playing high school ball, and she's playing at the college level. So
Nice.
it's really good to have kids that are very athletic and everything because I think in athletics they learn a lot of disciplines. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. My, it's just there's so many life lessons in athletics and things that they learn at a young age what it takes to succeed and to be on a team, and you're gonna face some losses too, and how do you deal with that? Overcoming the loss and moving on and saying, well, what do we take away from this to get better? And I think all of that's critical, and lessons that I try to apply within my businesses every day.
Well, it's interesting because it's not always about winning. It's about doing your best every day, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
and I think and taking away how you get better, right? So, everyone in life is going to have lumps, and you're going to have those losses, but what do you do about it? How do you sort of redirect and refocus? Um,
well, yeah. I mean, I'm, I'm, I'm in martial arts, and I'm getting ready to test, not test right now. I've got a ways to go, but on my third degree black belt, and
oh, nice.
it's just, and I've always been in kind of the athletic mode, and I think as kind of a sidebar, I didn't have a very good family life, and athletics really played a role of how I turned out, and I
Yeah,
think getting back to that business mantra, if you will. I think that entrepreneurs, they're not really born as entrepreneurs, and I think that they have to learn a lot of aptitudes. So I think sports plays a big role. I think the family that has core values that hone in on those are gonna be very valuable later on. So,
yeah,
uh,
yeah. I would agree. I think it's something you take with you through your life. I mean, I still play. I guess it's affectionately called beer league hockey now. Uh,
can you define that for me a little bit, Tom?
yes. So, well, as the name implies,
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah,
you
yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah, that
there,
has to be
there
hilarious. Yeah.
there is a formal league. There's a draft, and I play in a couple. I play in an over 30 league, which hey, at age 53, I told my wife I'm going to play in that league as long as I can. But there's 30-year-olds keep getting faster, right? It's
Yeah.
not me getting slower; they're getting faster, and
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I hear
but
you.
yeah.
I hear you. Yeah, right. Whatever.
Yeah, but I said I might be the last guy drafted, right? But I'm gonna stay in that league as long as I can because it's keeping me on my toes. But usually there's a beer in the locker room, so that's usually what awaits.
Yeah, yeah.
When
Probably not one beer. I'm sure there's a
yeah,
little bit of more than one beer, right?
probably not the best of life lessons, right? Win or lose, the beer is cold, right? So
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I think that's, I'm probably the oldest guy in the martial arts. There's one lady that's probably in her mid 80s and still
oh
going strong and everything. And so, I end up sparring with, college kids and people younger than I am. And so I don't know. It's good to be, I'm, 67. I feel like I'm 37. So,
there you go.
it's not that bad. So, well, listen,
Hey, and
talk,
as long
yeah,
as you can keep sparring with those young guys, keep doing it, right? Do it as long as you can because
you're right. You're
that's
right.
that's what's
Yeah.
going to keep you
Yeah.
in the best of shape. And nowadays, right? I'm not look. There's no misconceptions. There's no NHL scouts in the stands. Hell, I can't even get my wife to come watch. But but it is a great form of exercise.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is, and so being an entrepreneur, I mean, I had my ups and downs too and everything, but, give me a little bit of background of your family. I know it's kind of a trifecta for you guys, but, your great granddad, how did he become an entrepreneur?
Well, so our current configuration of businesses is really just the second generation.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay. All right. Sorry.
yeah, so my and I have it on. We have businesses on both sides. So my mom and my stepfather, and we have Canal Stone Company, which is heavy civil construction company. It's just celebrated its 50th anniversary last year in
Well,
2023.
congratulations. That's awesome.
Well, thank you. And we're in 7 states in the Mid Atlantic region. And then we have Teradon Corporation, which is a civil engineering consulting firm, and it's 36 years old. So 2023 was its 35th anniversary.
Wow.
And then we have a management services company, and then a real estate company. So it does keep us quite busy. Um, but I guess being the oldest of the kids growing up in the in the with the parents as entrepreneurs, and they were really in bootstrap mode and startup
Okay.
mode
Wow.
with Canal Stone at the time. And
Uh-huh.
I can remember as a kid, being in that mode, living in a little apartment in Nitro, West Virginia, and really not a whole lot under the tree at Christmas, and
Yeah.
but
Right.
just
Okay.
and them doing what they needed to do to make a go of it, if you will. And my mom held the job, and sometime around, I guess the company started in 1973, and then sometime around 79 or so, he quit that job and came on board with my stepfather. Uh, and, uh, and yeah, a lot has changed over the years, but, in those early days, I can remember them, really, really pinching and doing whatever it took. I know they'll make statements like, they, they didn't get paid, everyone else did, but they didn't, right? And that's just sort of what it took.
So it's interesting how where did they how did they get that inspiration to become an entrepreneur? What why did they pick and this is probably the wrong term, but the dirt moving business. I mean,
Yeah.
and I mean, what possessed them to do that? Did they see? I have some friends of mine that said, "Oh, I'm going to get a backhoe and I'm start going to move dirt." I
Yeah.
said, "Well, okay, it's
Yeah.
cool, whatever you want to do, but
Yeah.
it doesn't excite me, right?" And so I
Yeah.
think,
And we actually started as a quarry
okay,
inside an active chemical plant down in Nitro, and
oh wow,
what we were producing there, essentially, we were drilling and shooting, and then crushing and selling a road base. Although it was really more for like driveways at that time. It didn't meet any Department of Transportation specification. But yeah, so it was within this chemical plant, and
wow,
and I think Art, my stepfather, Art King, he went and saw a bunch of. He was in the bonding company at that time. He was in insurance, and he saw a bunch of these contractors just hauling the stone away for free. And I think he went to the plant manager and said, "Hey, you know, uh, we could probably make something more of this than them just hauling it away for free." So
yeah,
I think
okay,
that
right.
was the beginning of it, and from there we moved into abandoned mine land reclamation work,
Oh dang,
and
wow,
ultimately Art always really wanted to be in road construction, and so late 80s we started I should say mid 80s. It was the floods of 1985. So after those, if you remember those, they were
huh?
devastating in the eastern panhandle and Hardy County, that area of West Virginia. That really gave us our start. The Division of Highways basically drew names out of a hat, and we drew a large one, and the company grew considerably over the course of about a month.
Well, yeah, I was going to ask you, like, how does one, you know, get onto the bidding process with the state and then, become the number one, kid on the block type of thing? Because it seems pretty difficult to be bidding in a state environment.
Yeah, obviously you have to get pre-qualified and whatnot, but I really think, we do a mix of work with public and private work. And once you get into the public sector, um, and you get some successful projects under your belt,
Yeah.
it really is more low bid gets it. And it really has become the private sector that is a lot tougher to maintain those clients and those relationships. It takes an almost impeccable safety record with many of
Wow.
these customers, and culturally there has to be a fit. And so that actually we find is as big a challenge as getting into that public space, is just maintaining the private work.
So talk a little bit about, because you guys are in the environmental business, right? I mean, if you don't meet certain codes,
Yeah,
there goes the ROI, right?
that's right. Yeah, well, obviously, the environmental regulations in every state we work in. Um, and as you mentioned, we most recently added a project in Texas, so that's a first for us going west of the Mississippi.
Oh, wow.
Uh, these regulations exist, and they exist at the state level, many times at the county level, sometimes at the municipal level, even.
Oh, wow. Trickle
So
down. Yeah.
yes, yeah. So you really have to pay attention, but usually it's typically about adhering to best practices.
Okay.
Making sure the term in our industry is erosion and sediment control, E&S. You don't want to be we're moving dirt, so we don't want to be putting muddy water when it rains into jurisdictional waters in the United States, things like that. And you have to acquire the permits on the front end, which oftentimes delays the project. Certain permits may take 9 to 12 months to acquire.
Oh, wow. So that's interesting. So you have to provide a little bit of little something for revenue rather than waiting for the big kahuna to come in, right?
Yeah, and so I think that the trick there is like just always, what do you have in the hopper when you're looking at your backlog, right? Or, what's that, what have you been contracted to build that's, you're essentially working on at the time, and having projects in different stages. Having some that you're full blown on while others may still be in the queue for permits. And then, it depends on which state we're in. Whether the state acquires the permit for you or not. So in some states, it's easier just to sort of hit the ground running once you're low bid and you get the award and the notice to proceed. And others, it's much more of a process on the front end to get going.
Well, let me ask you this because it's interesting. You've been in you started the Teradon Communications Group and everything. So I would consider your degree from the University of Denver had a lot to do with your mass communications degree, starting that, right?
Yeah, yeah. So that was my first foray, you could say. Well, I mean,
Uh-huh.
really, I was the youngest paper boy of the Charleston newspapers ever had. I think I was eight
Okay.
years old when I
I,
started.
I love it.
So
Okay.
arguably, that's my foray into entrepreneurialism.
Yeah. Yeah.
I started a company called Teradon Communications Group. I sold it maybe 12 years ago,
Sure.
as I was entering the family businesses. But we were a content management software provider, and
In what? Hello? Are you with me?
place, the technologies, the concept of having all your content stored in a database was so novel at the time, and now it's so run of the mill. Um,
Well, it is, and you probably are very aware. I mean, AI has just been explosive in the business environment. And software is never pure. There's never a pure zeros and ones because there's always has to be maintenance done on that. And so I don't understand that AI has become full circle. People are charging money for what's free, and yet they're learning the expertise in order to make it a better AI. So, I mean, I use it in my podcast. I mean, I take a look at people's bios or I'll do something, and it's become a real good tool in business, right?
yeah, yeah, and I think it's going to become more prevalent, obviously. I hate to admit it. I sort of feel like that. You don't use it, you lose it. And when I started that company, Teradon Communications, I was, I taught myself a couple of programming languages out of college, and that's sort
Okay.
of how it started. And now I have my 17-year-old look at me like, really, Dad? Like, you don't know how to do this on your
You don't know
iPhone,
nothing,
or
Dad, right? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I've become that guy,
Yeah, right.
the,
Yeah. The dinosaur. Yeah.
I've become that guy. That's right. Now
Yeah.
obviously, we do look to integrate, new technologies and processes and practices into our businesses. But yeah, I lean more and more on my kids. So
Wow. Are they in the business? Are they getting involved or, I mean, your
yeah,
oldest?
so yeah, so he's expressed some interest, and last summer was the first summer he was old enough to labor on a project, so he
Oh,
did
wow.
that.
Okay.
He went out, he worked a concrete crew, so he was able to tie the form, put
Yeah.
up the forms and tie the
Right.
rebar and do the
Uh-huh.
pour, and he
Okay.
got to sort of do it soup to nuts over the course of last summer. So yeah, it was great. It was a great experience for him, and you know, he worked hard, which we had the conversation. Hey, if you want to come in the family business, number one, you got to learn some of the ropes, if you will, so to speak. But then you also got to earn some respect, right? And how you earn the respect of the guys is you work your tail off, right? You don't sit around. You go out there and you get it done. And I got good reports. I got the superintendent saying, I mean, he doesn't walk to get tools, he runs to get them. So
I love it.
that was heartening.
Well, well, yeah, I mean, but that's a telltale sign about, and I just not to get off on politics, but that's what Trump kind of did with, with his kids. I mean, he made them become millionaires on their own. I mean, he didn't hand feed them and say, oh, okay, here's $3 million, now go do what you want to do. And I think and I don't want to relate it to McDonald's, but there's a lot of franchises, there's a lot of other businesses that you have to learn from the ground zero all the way up,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
and then and then and then you have to get paid accordingly, right?
Yeah, of course. And that, as a family business, we have some rules in place, and you touched on a couple of them. One is you have to work somewhere else before you come in the family business.
Hmm.
And two is, we don't create a position and create a salary.
Right.
You come in where there's a legitimate need within the organization. You are paid what anyone, else would be paid in the same role. And you need to perform in that role as well. If you seek to move up, you need to perform in that role. So um,
Well, do
those, I
do you
think, are
think?
just best practices.
Yeah, well, let me ask you this. I mean, I know you went to college, and do you think if you bring your son on, this is just hypothetical, do you think that college is really where he needs to be, or do you think he'll work his way up without college?
No, and of course my 13-year-old as well. Both my boys, I have two sons, and both of
Hmm.
them are talking college.
Okay.
Actually, both have shown an interest in finance.
Okay.
And
That
I'm
might
sure
fit,
I
huh? Yeah.
probably encouraged it along the way.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, and again, I we do have the rule, go work somewhere else, and so I think that. Uh, I want them to be certain that the family business is what they want to do,
That's a
and
great best
and
practice, dude. Yeah. Great. Yeah.
yeah, and right now, that's how they're orienting, and that's how they're both talking about entering the business.
Yeah.
But I think it's important, go spend a few years, and what I've said is if you want to do finance, go somewhere like, New York or London or, somewhere.
Right.
Go work at some private equity as like a junior analyst and learn how to do deals in some market like that, and maybe do a few business plans along the way. And then if you still want to come in, great.
That's awesome. Is your wife part of the business, or she just your wife?
No, she's an attorney.
Oh, wow. Okay,
So
well, you've got all your dots covered right here, bro. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I joke and I say I'm not a smart man because I married a redheaded attorney. So not only does she,
Redheaded. Okay, we
yeah,
won't
not only
segue
does
there.
she,
We'll leave that alone.
not only does she love to fight, but she's trained at it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Right, right. Because it's interesting. I forget. I was talking to my daughter the other day, and I had lunch with her, and one of her teacher friends or something like that. She has all redhead kids in her class. And I thought, you
Oh,
need some
really?
patience. Yeah, you need some patience. I don't know how that all worked out, but redheads got a significant gene. When I was younger, I had red hair, and my grandson, oh my God, he's about 6'7", man, and he's
Wow.
got red hair, and
Yeah.
when he goes to play at basketball, he stands out real good because he's only the white boy there. So
Well,
it's
especially if he's 6'7".
yeah, yeah, right, right. Oh my gosh. So when I give him a hug, I kiss his navel.
Yeah.
I can't reach onto him.
Uh,
Yeah,
well, I'm
yeah.
familiar with that concept. My 17-year-old is 6'5", and
Dang.
looking up to
Okay.
I've been looking up to him since he was 12, you know.
Oh
So
wow. Okay. All
yeah.
right. Yeah. And I think that this whole family thing, I mean, so let me ask you, do you have a board of directors?
So we have a board of advisors.
Okay.
So they don't have the fiduciary responsibility that a board of directors does.
Right. Uh-huh.
And what our practice has been is we have they typically serve 2 to 3 year terms, and just depending upon what we assess the immediate need may be. So, for instance, we had a business development, marketing specialist, if you will, a few years back, when we were looking at expanding,
Okay.
our presence in certain vertical markets, and entering those markets. He helped with that. We have had fleet management, because obviously in the construction industry
Right.
in our type of construction we have a lot of yellow iron.
Okay. Right.
So
Right. Yeah.
fleet, yeah. So fleet, yeah. The kids love it, right?
I
Especially when
bet.
they're 5, 6 years old. They want to get up and pull any lever they can
I
in an
love it.
excavator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah. So that's been that's been our approach to the board is what's the immediate need, and filling those seats with folks that we think bring expertise to the table that we're looking to acquire or beef up, if you will.
Do you pay them?
We do.
Okay. All right. So they're on a
We
retainer
do.
for 2 years, basically.
Yeah, yes, we pay them on a per meeting basis and cover
Okay.
travel expenses and things like that.
Okay. So how did you come up with that rather than having a board of directors? Just because of, like you said, the integrity of the need.
Yeah, and we did a little research, and we really, without with the board of advisors, you know, and them not having the fiduciary duty that a formal director does, we
Right.
felt that it was a little less onerous on the members of the board, number one. And just to be honest, I mean, they're giving advice. We can take it or leave it, right? They're
Right. Right. Right.
advisors.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a great concept because I think a lot of times I just had lunch with the president of Chamber of Commerce in Ashland yesterday. He's a good friend of mine, and we were talking about board of directors, and he's inherited a lot of junk. Okay, and
Hmm.
he's trying to pull the politics from about 5 or 6 different municipalities. And he said, good luck, man. I said, but here's the deal. I said,
Say that sounds like a real challenge.
oh well, yeah, and this guy, yeah, I mean, you would like him, man. He's a fighter and just he's a musician, and so anyway, so we were talking, and I said, well, let me tell you something. When I was an executive of junior team in the Kanawha Valley, and I think maybe that's how we met. I don't know, Tom,
I
but
think it is. Yeah.
yeah, and so at any rate, I inherited an embezzlement there, and
Oh, wow.
I said, you want to see a Thunder Buster, man? I said, I had police, I had FBI in my office. I said, I had everybody, but I said, he has a degree in communications and everything at Marshall University. And, I said, dude, use that. He's such a people person. And I think that's kind of where I want to go with this. I think, the bottom line is that when you're running a company, I think you have to be really honed in on good people skills. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. The soft skills, just being able to uh, communicate effectively, and arguably I do that better some days than others.
I hear that,
Um,
right?
my wife may argue I don't do it well at all, but
Oh man, you're.
but
I'll tell you what. That's pretty cool because you stay in line all the time, bro. Yeah,
yeah, right. But
yeah,
that I'm trying to get better, right? Always trying to get better.
sure.
But you know, that aside, I mean, I do also think that just how you approach how your mindset towards your team, I think, is critical. No one can do it alone, right? And if you're gonna really build an organization, you have to acquire and retain the best talent that you can. And I think so much of it just comes down to we try to, we're a family business, but we try to really think of ourselves as a family oriented business.
Hmm.
And in fact, you'll see that a lot of our construction crews, a lot of them have the same last name, for instance, where, the dad has brought in the sons, and we have a
Okay,
couple of crews where, now the sons are the superintendent or the daughter's the superintendent, and maybe
I
the
love
dad's
it.
working for them now, right?
I
So,
love it.
and,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's just how we've sort of grown over the years. And so we've, we've always tried to be very family oriented and family friendly, which can be challenging in our business
Sure.
because, let's face it. I mean, if we get a job in Texas, we're gonna send some people to Texas. Like that's what we have
Right.
going right now.
Uh huh.
But the more that we can, you know, at least try and take care of, their the concerns they have for their family, being able to see their family, being able to be home on when they can, and maybe get in a little extra time with them here and there. We try to accommodate that as best we can.
Well, look, I mean, I'm telling you what, and probably on another podcast I refer to this, but and they were on my podcast. Carlos Ortiz was on my podcast. They own 9 restaurants in the area, and it's kind of funny because he's from Santa Paula, California. I'm from Ventura. We're neighbors, and so
Huh.
uh, you
My
know.
my brother lives in Ojai.
Oh my God, really? I love
Yeah,
Ojai, man.
about
Oh,
about about
yeah,
10
yeah.
miles 10 miles inland from Ventura.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So I used to surf the point there in
Yeah,
Ventura. So
yeah.
uh,
But you and my brother could probably have a couple hours of surf stories there.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We could, and how the fish ate at my feet and everything, and how I anyway. I won't go into other stories because they're too funny. But so at any rate, so he's got 9 restaurants. They have Fratelli's in Barboursville and some in South Point and everything, and so. I started following them on Facebook when they started opening up another business. Now, one of the things that fascinated me was their core values. What they do is they bring their people in and train them, and they say to them in Espanol and in English, they say, "Listen, I'll tell you what's going to happen. Here's our 5 core values. And if you can't believe in those core values, then we suggest that. Now I know your business is probably different, but he said, listen, see you later. Because if you can't work here with these, you're just not going to mix. And
Yeah.
so if
No,
you
and
look,
our
go ahead.
business is not unlike that. I mean, we have a certain culture that we're looking to build,
Yes. Yeah, you do. Yeah.
yeah, and there's a certain, and obviously, when especially particularly in the private sector, there's certain clients we want to work for,
Yes.
and there has to be a cultural fit, and if not, it just becomes so evident. On the first project, it just becomes so evident. And
It,
likewise with the employees, you can tell, okay, this just isn't the fit. It's nothing wrong with that individual, right? It's just not a fit.
well,
So I
eh,
can relate.
yeah, yeah. Well, one of the things too, Tom, is that you talk about the family environment. Brothers and sisters sometimes don't get along, right? And that
Yeah.
culture becomes kind of crazy, and because
Yeah.
of the
I,
needs and
I,
the
I,
go ahead.
did I tell you my sister is my COO? right?
Oh, no, 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 no. That's even crazier, but go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I'll tell you, Lauren, like I, uh, I decided a long time ago, and I was at some conference, a family business oriented conference of some sort, and I met a guy, and he was talking about his family business, and his parents had been tragically killed in a car crash,
Oh,
and
my word.
so
Yeah.
him and his sister took over, and they really didn't want to, and they really didn't like each other,
Yeah.
and
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
over the years, it had just grown to this point where like each had a corner office at opposite ends of the building, and they never they never spoke to each other, and
Yeah.
and this was honestly probably 15 years ago, and I thought I'll never I won't allow that to happen. Like if it even starts going down that path, right? I would just I'll go do something else, or
Right.
figure something else out. Like it's just the family ties are too important to let it go down that path. And it was so sad just talking to the guy,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, family environment is really, I mean, hats off to you because I think from a cultural perspective and a psychological perspective, and your wife can probably manage all of you. But she,
That's for sure.
I'm telling you what, I think it's really brilliant on your part because then the culture becomes something like they're accustomed to, right? There's a mirroring of the culture. And, if they got good core ethics for family, I mean, look, we're all people. We have different difficulties, and faces, some turmoil in our lives and everything. But I think one of the cool things is what you mentioned is that, being away from their family and making sure that they come home and spend some time. But, in other areas of their life, if they need counseling or if they're, all kinds of stuff, the company needs to understand all that stuff because I just see so many companies treat their staff like poop. I mean,
Yeah,
um,
well, and the business is made of people, right? And so, it's only going to be as good as your people. And
but
and are they happy? Are they taken care of? And obviously, I have we have employees leave, and they're not happy
sure,
for whatever reason, but we
yeah,
certainly, strive. But then by the same token, we have a lot of guys, and for our industry, it's very rare. But we have, our first employee, Lauren, is still with us. So
oh
he's
my
been with us
word,
51 years. Yeah.
dang,
Uh,
wow,
and our fourth employee is still with us.
wow,
Number two and number three unfortunately passed away.
wow,
So, and we have, superintendents that have been with us 30 years. And I do think that's an anomaly. And
yes.
while we may not be a fit for everyone, those that fit in, they tend to stick around, and we do appreciate them and try and take care of them.
Yeah, and I do. I tell you what, I talked to a lot of people, um, and I talked to a lot of business owners, I'm a casual observer when it comes to a lot of things. But what bothers me the most is the way people treat other people in their business environment. And I've consulted some small companies about, growing, and I was able to get a guy that has his master's in agriculture into his full-time pressure washing business, and he's now making close to $500,000, with another kid on the way. And so I think, from top to the bottom, he's got some really good people working for him. He's got about 6 people. He's got a new truck, that's being
Yeah.
painted for him. And I just think some of the loss, Tom, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, is the companies acknowledging that we're in a people business.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And
I
I mean,
think,
and that,
go
I
ahead.
think that goes to that goes to the fit with the clients as well, right? I mean, if we have a certain culture that sort of values people, and we, not naming any names, but we've recently, had clients who, I mean, it's not cool for you to go ballistic on my manager,
No, 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 right? It's
uh,
not. No, they're
right.
people. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's not, he's not going to respond to that, right? So
No,
it's
no,
it's going
right.
to have the adverse effect. And so and that's one that we've parted ways with, a
Sure.
client that we've parted ways with. And so in hindsight, looking back, probably should have seen the writing on the wall a little sooner. But,
Sure. Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I've worked for some pretty large companies. I sold some advertising, and everything, and they're stationed out of Sarasota, Florida. I always like to go down to Sarasota. I'm probably going to go to Anna Maria back in, maybe in August, just for a breather. But I think what's important, is this particular company. They were in the tourists, but they recommended, and they even paid you to go on vacation. They said, here's an
Hmm.
extra 500, $600 or $1,000 or something. We want you to take your vacation. We don't want you to become workaholics, right? And so I think little things like that. And here's the other thing too. I can ramble on for a while, but I won't. But so I think what's important is, and you may have profit sharing, you may not have profit sharing. I mean,
Yes.
I was put into some Hall of Fames for sales and marketing and everything because I kick butt in sales. But I think again we go back to this thing. I treat them right. If you can bonus out, okay, from
Hmm.
profit sharing or whatever you have, then guess what? That's a retention factor as well, right?
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. We would agree with that for sure.
Yeah. And so I just think that companies that, and I don't know because restaurant people can't keep people. Okay, there's certain industries that can't keep people. You probably don't
Yeah.
have that. You probably don't have that problem, do you?
Well, no, I think it's a challenge in every industry.
Okay.
As I talk to business owners, executives across the board, I hear that it's a challenge. The whole uh, acquiring and retaining talent is tough. Um, but for a company like ours, especially less on the engineering side, but more on the construction side, in the construction company, it's sort of standard fare, if you will, or standard practice that you may have a core crew, but you pick up, or you get a job and you pick up some locals.
Yeah.
We'll
Okay.
have equipment operators say, "Hey, I love working here, but your direct competitor got a project. Say got like a Department of Highways project, a mile from my house.
Yeah. Right.
So
Okay.
I'm going to
Yeah.
go work that job for three
Yeah.
years,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
see,
Right.
and I'll
Later.
see you down the road."
Yeah.
And many times they come back, and
Uh
that's
huh.
somewhat to be
Okay.
expected.
All
So
right.
we might be a little different in that regard,
Sure. Okay.
on the heavy civil construction side.
Yeah. But I think some of your core people, your engineers and some of those people, is there a competitive atmosphere that people are tugging at their strings because
Yes.
they're so good? Okay. Okay.
All the time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so does you think money speaks highly of people that wanted to go elsewhere? Like, okay, I'm going to offer you another 25,000 what he's paying. Come on
Hmm.
over.
Hmm.
Okay.
I think, I believe that everyone is different, and people have different priorities. And I think for a lot of people, sure, that's a driver. And, we've had people say, listen, I like you guys and I love you, mean it type thing, but, I can't turn this down. And it's understandable. And then I think other people there have different drivers. It could be uh, being closer to the family.
Okay.
Like I said, some of those guys maybe have left even for a little less pay, but they get to be home every night.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I think there are multiple drivers or levers, if you will, and it depends on what do you value as an individual. What's your family circumstances? I can tell you, like, and then I think your stage of life plays in as well. So, for
Right.
me, when I was 27 years old and running, had Teradyne Communications and was flying to Chicago and Silicon Valley, and I
Yeah,
was on
right.
cloud
Yeah.
nine,
Yeah,
like I
right.
was
Yeah,
not
exactly. Yeah.
married. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I'll stay the weekend,
Yeah.
and
Right.
now, I intentionally planned my meetings on Thursday, Friday so I could, hang out in Chicago, till Sunday night. But,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
and life changes, priorities change as your stage of life, evolves and kids come in and, I'm not there yet, but,
Sure.
we'll empty nest at some point, and I'm sure the priorities will change then too. So,
Yeah. That's a good insight because I think what happens is and I don't know whether you guys do this. I don't know. I mean, um, but I know I have a neighbor of mine. He has he didn't go to 4 year college, but he has a welding degree or welding certification. And he's working for a guy that has gas companies scattered
yeah,
throughout West Virginia, Virginia. Okay, so he's in his mid 20s, and
yeah, those
he's making
welders
a
do pretty darn well.
he's making about 150,000 a year. Okay, he paid
Yeah,
cash for 19 acres next to me, the house that I just sold,
yeah,
and he's starting a family. I mean, and so I think, but here's the telltale of the sign. He told me the other day we were talking, and what we do up here because we have acres, we sit on our John Deere riding lawnmowers and turn them off and talk to each other, right? Um,
sure.
but but at any rate, he said the owner told me the other day because of age, because of what you just said, he's thinking about turning the freaking business over to me. He's 25 years old, and because of his work ethic, because of
Hmm.
his busting his butt,
Hmm.
this guy's grooming him I mean, this is a multi-million-dollar operation in Kentucky and parts of West Virginia. So, I mean, it's pretty crazy to be honest with you. So I don't know within whether you guys like pull them up through the organization because it's a family and,
Yeah.
business, or you say, okay, listen, here's what we think you ought to be doing instead of doing this, and
Well,
and comp them
we do.
comp. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. We always strive to promote from within. I think that's
Okay.
important, and I think that people pay attention to that, right? So, are they bringing in guys from the outside? Or are they looking to bring someone up from within, right? And
Right.
train people up from within. So I think for us anyways, culturally, that's very important. I mean, bringing someone in from the outside would always be our last resort.
Good for you.
And
Yeah.
you are dead on as far as the work ethic goes. I mean, so much of it, I think, you may not have all the knowledge or all the skills, in that moment. But if you have the right attitude, you can acquire that knowledge and those skills.
Yeah. Well, just another sidebar, man. The organizations that I've sold for or done contract work for, I knew nothing about their frickin' industry, right? But I
Yeah.
guarantee you this: there's nobody that has had call me and get me up out of bed and crank open the computer and start making phone calls, okay? Just because of
Yeah.
what I've learned over the years. And so my sales territory was about $1.5 million, and Virginia or DC area and West Virginia and up around Pennsylvania, the Erie and everything. So look,
Yeah.
I mean, it is about ethics. And I think as parents, we go back to the sports venue. And I think it really
Yeah.
starts with that, man, because then they're going to see the team building exercise. They're going to see the work ethic, the try harder and everything, and keep on going until it gets better.
Yeah. Yeah, and just slog through it. And I think as far as the kids go, and my kids happen to both be in hockey, which for me was great. Like, like
Yeah, yeah,
my
yeah.
my goal when I got them into hockey was to play beer league together one day, right?
I love
So,
it. Yeah.
by
So you'll
by
be
the time
70
they were
years old. You'll be 70 years old and they'll come in through the 30s.
That's right. That's why I got to stay in that over 30 league.
Yeah,
But,
yeah, yeah.
I accomplished that goal when they were probably 6, 7 years old. Like, okay, they
Uh-huh.
like the sport, et cetera. And then it becomes about what they want to do with the sport, right? What are
Yeah.
their dreams and sort of feeding their dreams. But, my kids happen to be in the sports, but I do think for as far as the family goes, like it could be music, or it could be
Sure.
like drama
Right.
or something like that.
Exactly.
But
Right. Yep.
as long as you have a vehicle or a conduit, right, for the
Yes.
kid to learn the work ethic and hopefully they love it, so at the same time they're sort of, doing something they love, but they're also gaining that
Insights.
work ethic.
Right.
Yeah. And hopefully they have a family environment that's, encouraging that.
Yeah. And it's, at times I thought about writing a book, The Go Biz Guy, and because there's been some fascinating interviews over the past year, and I just only a year old, and I push this out to clearly about 100,000 people every Thursday to my social media platforms and stuff. And so,
Hmm.
but it's interesting because there is a key element to entrepreneurship, and it starts with the family. And very
So
rarely,
that's interesting. So that's a trend that you see, right?
yep,
Huh? Yeah, I'm
hmm
not
yeah,
surprised.
yeah,
I guess I guess it would confirm what I would guess is the case.
yeah, because what happens is that uh, all entrepreneurs, man, I mean, they learn some values from their parents and their grandparents, and it's like a it's generational, and it just keeps on giving. I mean, I have a granddaughter. Okay, she when she was in, I forget what grade it was. She was like sixth or seventh grade and everything.
Eh,
She sold that freaking slime stuff to kids. Okay, she generated over
yeah.
$1,000 in slime, man. Okay, and she watches the Shark Tank all the time. Okay, so I don't know whether she gets her DNA from Papa or whether because nobody else has that DNA in them. And she's working on a lip gloss. Okay, I already have an investor for her. Okay, and this friend of mine, he said, listen, he said, you tell your granddaughter, okay, that when she
Yeah.
gets serious, I will invest some bucks to her. Okay.
And
See,
how old's she now?
she is 14. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, I mean,
That's
and
awesome.
so yeah, it is. And one of my favorite organizations, like I told you, was Junior Achievement. I swear
Sure.
that there needs to be an economic education in all school systems. And I was at one point, I met with Dr. Meraki. He was a Board of Education dude. And
Yep.
we had set the tone to give economic education to the entire state of West Virginia. And um, it fell flat on my face because of the curriculum cross-track. It didn't meet their metrics. And so I said, well,
Huh.
screw you guys. I had IBM involved. I had foundational stuff going on. But anyway, so yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
I would agree. I think an economic component like that and critical thinking. I think that we should
yes,
have critical thinking in grade school as well.
yeah. Forget about a lot of this other stuff. To be honest with you, a friend of mine, Archie Looper, just wrote a book, Valor and Victor. Okay, and it's about a synopsis of presidents of the United States, and it's in a poetic format. He's got pictures everywhere, and so I was part of the launching committee for him, and You know, he kind of nails down all the good components of history with the presidents. He doesn't get political, you know, and I think that we need sometimes to uplift the positives of business and the positives of economic education because as you know, Tom, not everybody's cut out for college,
Yeah, no, that's true. Absolutely.
and
And
so
I would agree with you in that, we need to encourage that, and apprentice programs in the trades
yes,
are I'm like your friend there who is a welder by trade, working to become an executive. I mean, those paths can lead to, much bigger pursuits and horizons, if you will. And
it,
you
it,
know, and if you have the aptitude, and that's sort of what you're geared towards, why push towards college? Encourage
right,
encourage apprenticeships and encourage going into the trades.
yeah. Well, my son-in-law, they went to Boilermaking college at West Virginia State College, and So now they're working for gas companies, playing what I
Yeah.
call Tetris all day, moving gas all over the country, making 150,000 a year. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I don't know. Tom, it's just, you got to stay focused. So anyway, let me ask you something, in kind of closing and everything.
Sure.
What are some key elements if somebody wanted to start, not a business like yours, but just start a business? What would you kind of suggest that they do?
Well, you know, I guess I guess as a second, I am second generation. I did found, Teradon Communications, but I guess you could say a little bit of a safety net. But having seen what our first generation went through, firsthand, and growing up in that environment, I think obviously you have to have the passion, right? Like
Okay. All
it
right.
has to be something that you are passionate about and pursuing. And I think if you have that passion, it's almost like just a determination and a gut, a will to make a go of it. And um, of course, we have breakdowns in our businesses now, that need
Yeah.
addressed, fires that need put out. Everyone
Sure.
does,
Yeah.
but I think when you're starting out, those you haven't been through that before, maybe, and they seem to be
Okay.
maybe a little bigger or amplified, right? But having that gumption just to get through it and to figure it out, because every time you get, that's where you learn, right? I mean,
Yes.
it's
Right.
those it's the painful moments where you
Oh,
really
phew, right.
learn and come away with not just business lessons but life lessons, right? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah, and so my gosh, I've been through the ringer on a lot, because I've been running businesses since I was, I don't know, 20
20.
something years
Yeah.
old.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
been through a lot of breakdowns, and actually I would be lying if I didn't say, gee, I think I went through this breakdown 15 years ago. It's almost like a mirror image. So you try
Yeah.
to learn, right? But
Sure. But it keeps on
some
repeating itself. Yeah.
sometimes it does, but other times, you sort of, it takes root in the psyche, and you change your mindset, or your processes, or your practices,
Yeah.
and move forward. But anyways, yeah, starting out, I think that that's just critical, like having the passion, having just the desire to do it, because yeah, if you don't, someone else does, and that's what it's going to take to succeed. I think even now, you can't really half-ass. If you're running a business, you got to, it's like being pregnant. You got to be all in.
No, right? But that's true. You can't just, okay. So sidebar, and I tell you what, I took a couple to lunch the other day, and he started a cleaning business. And so I just asking him some questions. I said, so how many hours a day are you guys like putting into this cleaning business? You just started
Yeah.
and everything. He said 2 hours. I said, well, I said, I'll tell you what, you're going to fail. Okay. I mean, evidently you don't have enough passion. And she got smiles all over her face. I said, now I don't hate you guys, but if you don't step up and be all in, guess what's going to happen? You ain't going to get no more
Yes.
business, right?
Someone else who is all in is gonna take your business.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but listen, I appreciate those kind words, and Tom, thank you so much, and really, really enjoyed this podcast and everything. It'll be posting on Thursday, which is tomorrow, right? Yeah. Okay. Uh,
Yeah.
and and so but we look forward to talking again and everything. And who knows, I might make a trip up around Pittsburgh or something, and we'll have to go out for some beers or something. Okay.
Come on up for a Penguins game.
Yeah, no, I would love that. And in fact, you mentioned getting a penguin guy on my podcast, so I would love that too.
Well, yeah, I know a couple of former Penguin players, so let's
Okay,
see if
all
we can
right,
make that happen.
all right.
And
Well, look,
and
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
a couple of them are entrepreneurs too, so they might
I
be good
love that.
additions,
Oh yeah, baby, yeah, yeah. So listen,
no
have a
doubt.
good one, and take care. Be safe. Safe
O-
travels.
Okay, thanks, Lauren. Take care.
Bye bye.
See ya.